In cyber, we have a speak, but it's not cybersecurity, it's cyber resilience. Many organizations don't get the resilience, but I usually say less than I need to say.
My guest today is someone who never chose cybersecurity. His father wanted him to be a doctor. IT was his third option, but who turned that situation into mastery. Bashir Semakula is the Virtual CISO, co-founder of Cyberlastic, and an advisor who helps organizations align cybersecurity with business outcomes. Before building his practice, he was the middle manager who volunteered for the initiatives no one else wanted, conducted gap assessment on himself, and strategically collected certifications to become competitive.
By design, middle management is usually not visible.
What are the skill sets now at that middle management space one should be looking and prioritizing?
There's about probably 4 laws there you can apply in the workplace as middle management to progress.
The advisor who goes beyond the compliance to improving resilience. And I mean true cyber resilience. This conversation moves through strategic restraint, the art of GRC, and what it means to build a career by learning everything you can from every role, even when you are no longer chasing titles. If you are navigating middle management, communicating cybersecurity to people who don't want to hear it, or wondering what success looks like beyond the CISO role, this will give you permission to play the long game. Now you got me thinking, man. What does success look like for you at this stage of your career?
I think success for me now is...
This is Life in the Trenches with a Resilient Leader, a segment of the Stylish Cyber Podcast. And I'm your host, the Stylish Cyber Guy. If this conversation gives you something, clarity, confidence, or simply a different way of thinking, then it's doing its job. This podcast exists to make cyber more human, to create space for leaders to think clearly and grow together without fear. I am Khalil McIntamy, the Stylish Cyber Guy. If this conversation resonates, then I simply ask, tell the others. That's how we build this community, one conversation at a time. Hello, Bashir. Here we are. We've been going back and forth, have been wanting to have this conversation for quite some time. Welcome to the Stylish Cyber Podcast.
Thank you. I'm glad to be here.
So happy that we could finally make it today. I thought today with you, Brother Bashir, is let's do something different that we haven't done before in this podcast. I wanted to explore, first of all, your origin story, because that is important to us. And in the Life in the Trenches, we really focus on those silent leaders who have been doing things in the background and have been contributing heavily in the industry. And sometimes, yes, their work gets the light of the day, but oftentimes their work happens in the background in silence, and we want to amplify that. And with you, speaking of those whom work are not as clear as visible, there are a lot of audience segment, and the ones that actually we want to serve today is those whom are in that middle management layer. They're highly experienced practitioners. However, they lack visibility. So we want to talk and be of service for them today, you and I. And for those who have not met you or known you, if you could give us a bit of spiel, why are we here and what impact do you seek to have on the world?
First of all, I would like to introduce myself. Um, Bashir Semakula is my name, originally from Uganda, proud Ugandan. And the main purpose for me is to be helpful generally, but also in terms of work is to do my best to support organizations in terms of other activities that I do outside of work is to help others in various ways that I can, whether it's mentoring, whether it's supporting the communities that I live in. So that's my purpose.
Amazing. So, Bashir, you mentioned you are from Uganda. If you could take us back in time, how did you end up here today as one of the highly respected cyber practitioners that we have in the industry? You are prominent, especially in the ISA community, have been for over the years. How did we get here?
I think my story began in 2005.
Mm-hmm.
So this is when I was in year 2 in my undergrad degree in Kampala, a university called Chambogo University, and was doing this course on network security. So this is my first time to interface with cybersecurity, as it's called now. And then we were learning about Kerberos, and it really got my interest. You can actually get users to authenticate themselves, and all of that sort of stuff. So it took my interest, and this is where I got the interest in cybersecurity. When I finished my undergrad, I knew what I wanted to do. Luckily enough, I had found a role as IT admin, but then 1 year into the role, I was fortunate enough to go to the UK to do a master's in network and information security. Year and a half later, I went back to Uganda to work there, and then did a few contract roles within the region, then ended up finding myself in Tanzania.
Wow.
Doing work there, also doing lecturing, teaching at a university or universities, because I taught at 2 universities.
Right.
And then after probably 6 years, I met my wife and then moved to Australia. And I've been living here, Australia, ever since then, mostly in Brisbane, but had a short stint in New South Wales between 2018 and 2020.
Wow. Man, you've been traveling a lot for exploring East Africa, Uganda, Tanzania. So if you would, those school days, what was your context like back in Uganda? What was life like? What were you dreaming of during that period? And what was the thing that gave you that age about, wanting to do information security and in the first place?
I mean, for those that don't know Africa, I think the only thing we have there is education. So ever since you're a young child, your parents, your friends' parents, the only thing they're telling you have to study and get a degree and become useful to yourself. So I'm not different from all the other Africans. But one thing in particular, I did not want to do IT in the first place.
Interesting.
So my parents, my dad in particular, wanted me to be a medical doctor. So when I went to A level, which I think in Australian speak is maybe year 11, year 12, I chose the, 4 of the hardest subjects to do because this was the guaranteed path to medical school. And mostly because it will be government sponsored. So I did physics, chemistry, biology, and mathematics. And at the end of the A level, I managed to score 19 out of 25 points. Unfortunately, I did not. But just a little bit behind is when you do the exams for A level, the government gets you to choose your top 4 courses you like to do at the university.
Right. Okay.
So my top one was pharmacy.
Interesting.
The second one was medicine. The third was IT. I was guaranteed I would not get to the third. I knew it would be one of the two. I was that good in high school.
Wow.
Sorry, in A level. But when the results came, I did not get the top 2. But I landed, fortunately, because you have to wait until the results come out and go and see what the government has offered to sponsor you at the university. So when that list came out, I was given IT. And this is something that my parents had never done. They had never heard of. And then fortunately within the family, there was a cousin of mine, a bit more mature than I was. So she knew a lot about the sector. So I was sent to go and speak to this cousin of mine. And then she said, IT is a very good area. It's going to grow. It's going to be big and this sort of thing. So that's how I landed in IT. So I ended up going to the university doing a bachelor in IT. And, ever since then, I've been doing IT. And I don't envy the medical school or medicine.
Not at all.
Yeah,
Especially now with the current change in technology.
yes.
So what about your household? What was it like as a child, even prior to the high school period? Did you grow up, I don't know, with the way Africa is? Some people see Africa, I would say, is the richest space where nothing is going on. What was it like for you as a child growing up?
I think the childhood is very humble. Both my parents were teachers.
Oh, nice.
And, we lived in a very small house. And, but we had the basics. We had the food. We went to the schools. And then, at about, I think, primary 4, I think would be, I don't know, a standard 3 year or grade 3, whatever it is. Managed to, the school I was going to before standard 3, standard 4 was more average. But my dad made a strategic decision that for my kids to be better than I was, they had to go to a more known school, more where the children of the rich at the time went. So these were some of the traditional schools that were left by the missionaries. So I ended up going to Nakasero Primary School, a very well known school. There were lots of ministers' kids were going there. So that helped us get friends that up to now they're still friends. Some of them are MPs and ministers right now. Some of them are politicians. Some of them are businessmen because of whatever. So yeah, but the household in itself was very humble, very religious to say, and it was very basic. I think over time, probably left the lower bracket as my dad progressed in his career. He ended up being a deputy head teacher and then a head teacher. So he managed to sort of work our way. He managed to get his first car in 1999.
Wow.
And then it's just been exponential growth since then. So I think I can say our family was middle class until today. So yeah.
Nice. You said quite religious. So I would imagine also with that comes with a lot of discipline and sort of quite a regimented routine, so to speak, right?
Yeah, that's correct. Yeah, in a religious family, there are things that you must do. So, prayer was must. During the holiday, we had to go to learn the Quran. We kept busy. And very strict parents, very disciplined father. And, I could not have it any better. I think knowing what the sort of kids we have nowadays.
Yeah.
My childhood was the best. Obviously as a child, you don't think that at the time, but I think, in hindsight now, I think that was the best sort of time.
Hey, I want to know more about that. You said in hindsight, this is the best upbringing you could ever had. Why is that?
I mean, as a father myself right now,
Yeah.
we let our kids drive us. Like what they want to do is what they'll do. A kid here can say, I want to do art, for example. We didn't have that choice. Your father made that choice for you.
Right.
So you either go with his choice or you no longer live at home. Very black and white.
Yeah.
Very simple. So I think as a parent, you're looking at this young person, they don't know anything in the world. Like all they're seeing is something on right now, social media. They think they can do art. They could be good artists, but as an individual, as a parent, this art is not going to take this child anywhere. So I think it was good that decision was made for us because of the life experience our parents had. They said my parents were my dad, both of them were teachers, but over years, my dad sort of progressed more than my mother. And for him making that decision that this is the path you take, it's not something that he makes out of, lack of experience. This is something he makes from either seeing what's around him, understanding as a teacher, in 20 years' time, will my child be able to have a good career, be able to look after himself and that sort of thing. So I think given that background, I think it was the best. Otherwise, if I was left to make that decision for us, I don't know where I would be today.
Yeah. Wow, that is so profound. Because I was just thinking also, in the current landscape, then in the modern context, is that even possible to replicate how we are brought up back at home in this? I don't think even in Africa is at this current time is easy to do.
I think it's easy to replicate.
Yeah.
I think our children have taken over, and we're giving them a lot of the decision making, and and I don't try to teach other people how to parent, but I don't think that's how I would parent my kids.
Yeah. How are you doing it now? I'm curious.
Very straightforward.
Okay.
So, with my daughter, 15 this week, this past week.
Wow.
So I had a conversation with her and I said, look, she wanted to do business, for example. She said, I want to do business. I said, look, I'm your father. I want to help you so that in 20 years' time or 15 years' time, or when you're no longer under my care, you should be able to look after yourself. And I said, I'm going to choose for you 2 career paths that I think would give you a career out of the 4 you would choose. And then after you do your study in these aspects, you can go and do your business because that's what you want to do.
Yeah.
The conversation I had with her, and she was fine with it. So I did my research and then went and presented the 4.
Yeah.
And then I'm giving her time to sort of study, process it,
Yeah.
that sort of thing.
So at this stage now that your child is at the age where you could have real conversations and go back and forth, will the approach be then befriending them, becoming like a mentor type kind of dynamics? Is that how you are approaching it, or yeah?
I think not being a disciplinarian in the physical sense,
Yes.
but being, again, it's a slippery slope. Being, like, the kids might misinterpret it as being their friend when you're being a parent plus a friend. So, like, you have to tread carefully. You have to know when to bring out your parent side, when to bring out your friend side, and when to bring out your, maybe mentor side.
Wow. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a tough one. Bashir, in the cyberspace, first of all, what year did you come to Australia? And then you determine, okay, this is home now. I want to explore cybersecurity here.
October 2nd, 2016.
Wow. 2016, so now
But,
onwards.
but I had been to Australia a couple of times before.
Okay, so can you walk me through that?
Basically, I came to see Australia
Uh-huh.
because I was doing a bit of consulting that I thought was comfortable in Tanzania.
Right.
And so I came twice to visit, to see. And then once the decision was made that, okay, I'm going to come, I moved permanently in October 2nd, 2016.
Before we go back to that, I want to touch on what you just said earlier. You said, I was doing a consulting in Tanzania that felt comfortable. Touch on that, please. It felt comfortable in what sense, and why the shift?
I think in Tanzania is one of those places that, to me, is very comfortable. And I had created a big network there.
Right.
Very connected to, high up in government. I had lots of friends in Tanzania. I still have most of them till today. I was getting work through some of those friends to do for some government sort of contracts. And, I was loving the place. So, I didn't even want to go back to Uganda. So I was going to Uganda as a visitor. So that was before sort of I moved here.
Yeah, so was you getting married being the main trigger, then moving here, or there's something within you that thought, okay, now it's time for change, so I may as well make that move? Yeah.
In 2009, 2010, when I was doing my master's,
Right.
I was in one of the top 4 cities in the world, London. And I had done a degree that that would guarantee me a job in the UK.
Yeah.
But while when I assessed the lifestyle in London, the UK in general, I did not see myself in 20 years living there. So when I made the call to go back, everyone was upset. My parents, they had partially invested in my study there. Why did you leave the UK? Everyone is struggling to go
there. Yeah.
So I made that call. I thought I would go better in Uganda or in Africa. And I had a few friends who were connected, and they were promising some contracting gigs, which they did come through with. Now with Australia, I'd never heard of Australia before, and my thinking was, oh, is it another London? I didn't want to live in very small areas, small flats. So this is why I came to see what the place is.
Right.
And sort of see the different lifestyle. But when I came here, it was different. And
so different how? And what was it about UK that you didn't like at all?
I think I have nothing against the British people, but
Yeah.
I think I found the place very overcrowded.
Interesting.
And they very expensive to live. Very top city, very good to visit. I did not see myself living there.
It felt so constrained.
So constrained.
Yeah.
And I think the people, I found the people on the street majority of the time were gloomy, and it was very cold. When I came here, it was the opposite. People were very relaxed.
Yeah.
Lots of people who smiley faces on the street.
Interesting.
Yeah, and I think I felt that maybe this is sort of, the weather is similar to Uganda as well. So I felt
it has that happy feeling.
Yes.
Yeah. I mean, is the whole reason why, I mean, for example, in tennis, they even call the Australian Open the Happy Slam. So suddenly, only when tennis players come to Australia, they're happy. And the whole thing becomes like a fiasco, like a festival kind of thing. It's interesting you said that. I felt the same thing. I remember when I moved here 2013, late 2013, and then 2015, I took time from my study, went to Canada. During that time when I was in Canada, I never felt like I was a foreigner living in Canada, working as a researcher. But at the same time, there's this happy feeling that I felt throughout my time. And at the time, it was just a short period in Brisbane, and also the community that I get to build. So I totally can relate to that feeling as well. So 2016, you are now in Australia. And how, at that time, Brother Bashir, because I know 2016 where I was and how difficult it was for me trying to find ways in the cyber. What was it like for you? You are in a new country, even though you've been sometime a year prior. But what is it like? It's not like this is the time where you are making it home. You're trying to make it home, which means you have to put more effort. What was it like, the feeling?
I think it was sort of similar. So what I found that um, those of us who have worked in Africa, many of the roles that you do, you find yourself you have to be very sort of a generalist, very broad in knowledge. And in some of the things, you don't have to have enough depth as long as you know enough. But what I found here, they wanted specific and very depth knowledge. So between, October and December, I was just applying for roles and going to different meetups and trying to understand the landscape. And then, looking around, I found the Australian Information Security Association.
Okay.
So I went to their networking event. So basically, for me to understand what sort of roles, what sort of um, organizations I should target, and that sort of thing. And I was fortunate to meet various people. One of them still my friend up to today, and he sort of gave good advice, do this, do that. But it also helped me to sort of identify where my strengths are in this market, like where I would better concentrate my efforts in terms of looking for roles. Good example, I knew all about SIM tools, back at home, I was very good. So, I had broad knowledge.
Yeah, interesting.
But here, I think at the time is when Splunk was sort of exploding at that time. So they were looking for only Splunk people. And, I get
More technical.
more technical.
Yeah.
Get in front of the recruiter, explain that I know about SIM tools. This is a tool I've been working with. I said, oh, the client, their client wanted someone who has Splunk knowledge depth and, just. So I did not get the role. So
Yeah.
I had to sort of figure out, okay, I need to lean on my GRC experience, understand the GRC here, and sort of concentrate my efforts there.
Right.
So, kept applying, but was more focused on the GRC roles.
So you made that critical decision.
Yes.
Okay.
I understood that people here would have 15 years, 20 years knowledge.
Yeah.
Either working in Linux or, Windows, 20 years and, have been in a SOC for a long time. So I would not compete in that sort of environment.
Yeah.
So I made that decision then to say, okay, I'll target this sort of roles. And, this is when I got a break. I was doing a few interviews, but this is when I got the interview that got me the role with the government. And
can you remember the day, the date, the year? I mean,
it was now January
2017. Interesting.
Wow. I did the interview at the beginning of the year and then started the role early February. Must be the 2nd or 3rd February 2017.
Yeah. In government. Wow. So at that time, What was your dream with the cyber or career-wise? You've already landed. You landed your first gig. Yeah. What was the dream at that time?
The dream at that time was to land a role in cyber.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't want to go back to my student days in London when I was doing odd jobs.
Right.
So, and I think once I landed the first role, then my dream, I had a few months sort of understand the landscape, but also then the dream had to change.
Yes.
First of all, I needed to understand the landscape,
Mm-hmm.
understand the, how cyber is done here, and, the role I was in, that threw me in the deep end very quickly. And but I had to learn on the go, like
Pretty
quickly.
Yeah.
And I had to lean on my experience back from Tanzania quite a bit. So then I needed to figure out, where I wanted to be in sort of 5 years, and what that would look like in terms of my future roles.
So can we do a thought experiment and just walk me through how you put those 5-year plan? Yeah.
I didn't have a
Just
plan
require.
per se.
Okay.
What I needed to do, what I wanted to do then was find a role that will give me a leadership, another leadership position. This role that I was doing was a leadership position, like be in the role,
Okay.
for at least 3 years,
Nice. Okay.
and then see how my career is going at the time,
Mm-hmm.
and then
Figure out what next.
figure out what happens, because it was difficult then to figure out where I wanted to go. What I wanted is to be in a role that utilizes my skills, but also have broad knowledge, but also give me the skills that I need to be in a rewarding cybersecurity role. At that time, I did not know what that looked like.
Interesting. So you stayed in that role for how long?
So I stayed in that role for until I think March 2018,
So for a year.
for a year and probably 1 month.
Interesting. Initially was looking at something that would give you stability for the first 3 years. Within a year, you've already made a move.
So partly, I think most of it was because of machinery of government changes. That's where there was another election. Interesting. January 2018.
Mm-hmm.
So within that machinery of government, this role was made redundant.
Okay.
So because then the department was merged with another department,
Mm-hmm.
so this role was made redundant. But then at that particular, around that time as well, my wife got a role in regional New South Wales.
Mm-hmm.
So then it was sort of a perfect time for me to make the decision, go with her regional or stay in Brisbane. It was very easy because I didn't have the role there.
Exactly. Okay.
So then the thing became then I need to find a role where she is. So I was fortunate enough that there was a role going at the University of New England.
Mm-hmm.
It was a managerial role, so I applied. They were desperate for someone. They flew me down, did the interview. Came back. I was given the role and yeah, moved.
And that was a head of cyber role.
Yeah, it was manager
Manager of cyber. Yeah.
the security architecture and governance.
Oh, wow. And so still the middle management.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So now here you are, University of New England, new adventure, 8 months or a year after your first breakthrough. What was the outlook look like?
So then this is now when things started to become clear where I wanted to go.
Please walk us through that.
Because then it was a very broad role, looking after, over 20,000 students by then, and probably 3.5 staff, very broad, very sort of hands-on because the team was small. My mantra always has been for any role, anything that I do is learn as much as you can in that role, because you don't know whatever you learn where you need it in the future.
Yeah.
So any role that, I did have it like within the team, the team members didn't want to do it, or we didn't have the depth for someone to do it, I would do it. Like I would go and do it. I remember I had to go and deliver training to students. Like as a manager, I wouldn't have to do that. But I was very passionate about the awareness and because I seen how students were giving us a lot of grief. And, there's, cybersecurity budgets are usually always very tight.
Yeah.
So I did a lot of sessions in student halls, with an, very basic, don't do
Building awareness. Yeah.
But going back to your question, that this is when it became clear. So we determined that we're not going to stay regional.
Okay.
Head back to Brisbane or go Sydney, wherever. So once we made that clear, I thought to myself, okay, what do I need to be competitive when I go back to Brisbane? So this is when I figured out, okay, I need to do, gap assessment in terms of the education, but where I have gaps.
For your own skill set.
For my own skill set.
Right.
And the experience and some of the things that I'd never done, I got exposure and did them in that role. But then for the gaps in education, so I looked around, what are some of the certifications that, these recruiters will be looking for?
Yeah.
I made a list. So CISM, C-risk, I did all of those. I did the COVID certification. I did ISO lead implementer certification.
Right.
So I prepared myself. I did the TOGAF certification. Prepared myself in terms of the knowledge as well. With the TOGAF, I was working very closely with the enterprise architect in the role. So, I got a lot of exposure with that aspect of IT, because I'm very close to cybersecurity. The reason why I did TOGAF is I didn't want to go in a room talking architecture and I didn't know what they're talking about. Because once you don't know what you're talking about, what they're talking about, then you can't provide input.
Yes.
True. So I got exposure at work, what that means, but then also got that gap in education, fix that gap.
Yeah.
So once I had that clear, then
I have a question. You did that, you found those gaps. But before finding the gap, what I don't get is, what is it that you have decided you wanna actually do, as in it's crystal clear, as in terms of your career path, where you wanna go, that you've also then with that then it informed, okay, doing that gap analysis.
So at that time,
Yeah.
my associate director, who is, de facto CISO at the time,
Right.
we were having this conversation and I was seeing how much grief he was going through. So I said, I don't think I want to be a CISO at that time. I said, probably in my career now, I want to be a contractor. Now, going back to my Tanzanian days, very sort of flexible in terms of what I do. So being a contractor, and I was seeing that there's lots of opportunities in that space and opportunities to do consulting work.
Right.
That informed that decision to say,
I see.
if I'm going to be a contractor, what are some of the requirements that contracting roles are asking for?
I see. Okay. Yeah. So because I have to be honest with you, I saw throughout and by the way, that was the time that you and I connected. That same period when you made the decision to return back. prior to that, I've heard a lot about you from few of the government people. Yeah, but it was the time when you returned back. That was when you and I connected. And even at that period, I have a confession to make is that when I saw your experience and skill set and the depth of work that you were involved, for me, it was just natural that your next career phase is for you to become a CISO. And I never saw that happen. And then I started observing from the background. I never asked you. I want to ask you actually today, what is it about the CISO role that you, while many are chasing, you said you saw it, there's opportunity for you to take it, you shun it, basically. You let go of that.
I think, again, it's not shunning it.
Okay.
I'll say completely, but I think at that point in time,
Yeah.
I didn't see myself being a CISO. Not because I cannot do it, but because I didn't want to sort of have to go through the grief at the time.
You
And
don't
also
want
the landscape.
You don't want gray hairs.
I don't want to have gray hairs. But I mean, but I think I don't like to chase the title in itself.
Interesting.
Interesting. They like few colleagues sort of like the title, and because it's a prestigious title, even if some of them are not particularly, they don't have the actual title, but when you read what they do,
Yes.
it's actually CISO driven material. So
Yeah.
at that point in time, what I wanted to do is get more broad experience.
Okay.
Because again, I was still wanting to learn more about what different different organizations in Australia, how they do cybersecurity.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And understanding that would sort of give me an edge. So like I did not shun it completely. I just said maybe in the future, but for right now, I need to have as broadest knowledge that I can get as possible.
So, Bashir, do you know in our industry we have more middle management people and more entry level people than we have people at that executive level. And within that middle management, I say that there are plenty whom are necessarily doing some fantastic work, but at the same time they feel invisible. Yeah. Why do you think that is happening? Is it partly a fault of the individual, or is it the culture of how cyber is? What is it in your own assessment?
I think it depends on what you term not visible. I mean, by design, middle management is usually not visible.
Mm-hmm.
If you look at the structure of many organizations, most of them are still reporting to CIOs. Like, how is middle management going to be visible? Like,
In that sense,
it's going to be difficult.
Yep.
So I think for me, it's by design. It's invisible.
Mm-hmm.
But there are some sort of roles where security managers report directly to CIOs.
Right.
So they don't particularly have the title in itself. And some of these managers sort of present to the board. They can be visible, but without the actual title.
So, is the visibility or the lack of then in that regard a good or a bad thing, or it just depends? How do you see that? Because again, if by design most the entire org structure also are not meant to be that way, if today at this time is still not changing, how should a profession approach it?
I mean, it's partly because of the culture that in many organizations. Majority of organizations have something that I've I think seen around as well, but that I call security theater.
Right.
So most organizations say they want to do security, but they never do.
Interesting.
So, that forces, the cyber middle manager that is doing all he can with the limited budgets to become invisible, because they do the speaking, but they never do the doing.
How do we make that shift?
I mean, it's culture. I'm very big on culture.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes I can, from speaking to an individual working in the organization, be able to tell what the culture is. I think security culture is difficult to change. It will have to be someone from the top to help change that culture. Um, um, well, I was working on one awareness program.
Okay.
And there was always this, oh, you need to run awareness, whatever. And my approach was speaking to this board that it needs to come from the top. Bottom up is not gonna work. It needs to come from the top. The voice needs to come from there to say, I can do all I can. Like, yeah, I can, do all the talking and telling these people how to treat this, how to treat that. But the other things that are not, how do people treat the acquisition of technology? That's something that needs to come from the top.
Yes.
So I think it's a culture that I think some organizations are still struggling with. So changing that requires deliberate effort from the top, really, to say we are going to do security,
Right.
and I'll be on the front line in leading these initiatives.
Wow. I'm taking two things. One is then, what are the skill set now at that middle management space? One should be looking and prioritizing. That's number one. And I want to hear your take on that. And secondly, how do one influence change so that one can bring about that visibility?
I think the skills you middle management, the communication. So being able to present and knowing what to present and how to present it as well.
Yeah.
And, and when as well. So that's important.
Can you walk us through when, what, how?
So what you have to understand the audience as well, who you're speaking to. So if you're speaking to, your CIO, if you report to them, understanding what they want and how they want to be communicated to, and some of the things you need to. So if you don't already know, finding out, you might be sending emails and you're complaining that they never respond, but maybe the guy doesn't like emails.
So how do I find out?
You have to engage and say, I'm redoing how I communicate with my key stakeholders. What would you prefer? Would you prefer an update in a meeting, an email, or any other form, basically? So finding out how they would like to receive that information.
So really physically making time to meet them face to face?
Yeah, to sort of have clarity on how they want to receive that information.
Right, okay. So that's the how. Then what to present?
So again, depending on the audience, one of the big topics spoken about is what you present to your committees and boards, what metrics you present. So understanding the so what, answering that so what question when you present as well. Having something that you're not just going there to present numbers, you're going there to get them to take action. And also, being able to, knowing how much time these people have as well. So depending on the audience, understanding what to present and sort of how long is it going to take. Majority of the time, you might face yourself that you have to present one item. You might have 5 minutes, 10 minutes. So what is that thing? If you had 20 slides, with each slide with a number of content, you're going to struggle to sort of choose what you're going to present.
So you may as well then just choose one thing to prioritize and one key message. Is it?
You could have everything you want to put forward, but have one thing if it's something that you want them to see. And that could be because of what's priority. Say, for example, if there's an audit coming, you might just focus on that because that meeting may not happen again until 3 months. So you might focus on that and say, this is how we're doing with our audit findings, remediation. This particular one here, if we don't do it, we're going to get non-conformities or aberrations and that sort of thing. So I think understanding the audience as well sort of is important.
By the way, speaking of audit, how do you reconcile, Bashir? I still couldn't find an answer to that or solution to that. How do you reconcile when let's say you are put in one of your contracting gig and part of it is to also help them uplift their capability from on, and they've got audit coming up, especially from the GRC space. How do you reconcile with this idea of security or the GRC turn into a tick box kind of exercise? Year in, year out is the same thing being discovered and the needle doesn't move. How do you make a change in such situations? Do you have any practical examples where you've seen it done well?
I think usually, because in some organizations, in cyber we have a speak, but it's not cybersecurity, it's cyber resilience. But organizations don't get the resilience part.
Yes.
Now, what I've done is conceal my intention. Like, I know it's a tick box exercise. But there are activities that could be embedded in that tick box exercise that improve resilience. So you appeal to what the organization is aiming to do. To achieve compliance.
So can you give me a practical example? Let's choose one thing that they are appealing to do, just from your experience, please.
So
that it becomes crystal clear.
So for example, ISO sort of 27001. They say you need to have a incident response capability, for example. And the audits might just check whether you have the plan. And, they might not care whether you've tested it. So if you put on your resilience hat, you force that even if we have the plan, let's get it tested. It's part of compliance. You force that. So you conceal that intention of improving resilience behind compliance. Because their intention is mostly compliance.
Exactly. We want to pass this already.
But as a cybersecurity professional, for you, it's not just compliance. It's improving resilience in general. So, there's a number of the different controls that specifically the standards might not say you need to have this, but from a
experience,
resilience, there's different ways that you can add additional things to not just tick the box, but also improve resilience.
Do you think GRC, especially um, the cyber aspect within the GRC within cyber, um, is an art more so than like a mathematical kind of thing? Plus or minus is more like an art form.
I think it's an art because you have to do a lot of talking and convincing. And that's an art that
Yeah.
like you develop over time.
Plus also, you know that there's all these hundreds and hundreds of controls, making sense of them, knowing what should go where, but also ensuring that you are not over engineering the thing. Yeah. How do you approach those kind of things? Because sometimes it becomes like a paralyzing thing. Yeah, where it becomes like a vicious cycle. I've seen that happens, especially from an essential aid perspective, for example, where they say, okay, if you have weaknesses in your systems, because you've got so many legacy applications or things like that, you have to, and if some of them are already facing internet facing, which means hackers are being actively exploiting, here are the things that you must do. Most of the time, then it becomes like a vicious cycle that never ends. New weaknesses comes, and then you are playing catch up. Is there ways we should approach such kind of things from a GRC perspective?
I think most of the standards are quite vague in how they write this stuff. Yeah. And to me, I use the vagueness to my advantage in
Okay.
terms of prioritizing and also improving resilience, because the statement is subjective.
Right.
So my interpretation is to improve resilience. So I can't say, even if it's not, because it's vague, you can interpret it different ways. For example, it might say you must have XYZ capability.
Yes.
So what does capability mean? Does it mean, for a GSC person, it means you must have a policy or a procedure or a standard. But if you're looking for resilience, it might mean that you must have an additional capability to uplift this. You must have ongoing, you have to review, you have like you take it a step further,
Right.
improve the resilience, but also they put on the risk lens. Like if you're thinking you might over engineer, put on your risk hat and say, okay, what is the risk if I interpret it this way, this way? So I think using risk and resilience because resilience means you can take it a bit further.
Yeah.
And risk means as well that, okay, there's a risk if I stop here and there's no risk, for example, or maybe the risk is low and is within appetite. So I'd rather just stop here. This is enough, or take it further to improve resilience.
Wow. That is so good. AI. We're slowly about to run out of time, but I want to hear your opinion on AI. You did a couple of years ago, you did a gap assessment of your skills, and it brought you to where you are now. You've reaped the benefit. You've made strategic decisions. What are you doing now, given AI? It looks like it's coming to get all of us.
I think, AI is here. It's not going anywhere. It's going to stay. But I think my thinking is it's going to make, if you're not using it now, you're getting behind. So I use AI on an everyday basis to do different things. So I've tweaked the tools that I use to fit the kind of work I do and what I want it to do for me.
Can you give examples?
So I use Gemini and Claude heavily. So within Claude, you can build 4 different skills. They call them skills. And I've done the same for Gemini as well. They're called gems. So you can build a skill in Claude, say for example, to do your proofreading. So I have proofreading. I have one that helps with my presentations.
Right.
I have one that does devil's advocate.
Right.
If I have a
critiquing,
and I say, tear this thing apart, for example,
Right.
where for this sort of audience, where this would be. So it's reducing the time for me that I'll have to go through reading through this thing. It helps me to sort of fine tune what I'm planning to do with presentations. It helps me to see if there's a lot of content on that slide.
Interesting.
So, and this is something that I use on every day.
So with Cloud, for example, do you use the Cloud Code for that, building those skills, or you just use the generic prompting?
No, I use it is within Claude. There's the standard ones.
Okay.
So what I do is I go there and tweak.
So do you like create projects for them?
No, it's not projects.
Yeah.
Like they're called skills. You go in there.
Okay.
Just name them, and then you can improve them.
Interesting.
So basically, you would have a trigger for them. So for example, if you're in the chat and you upload the document,
Yeah, then you can say,
either proofread or what's wrong with this.
Right.
Interpret that. Okay.
It automatically invoke that skills.
Correct.
Interesting. Wow. And the same thing with Gemini.
Same thing with Gemini as well. So
So do you think then for the experienced practitioner, AI would be a force multiplier for them?
Yes. I think if you use them safely and securely, they can sort of help improve, make you more efficient. And, consultants spend a lot of time writing reports.
Yes.
So, if you can find a way to minimize that time and basically, use that to help you draft reports or fine-tune reports.
Yes.
Interesting sort of thing. So I think utilizing them would be, like you said, force multiplier.
I was reading and also listening to a few AI talks. It says that entry level, actually Claude released a report showing that entry level jobs are diminishing quickly and fast in almost most fields. What would an entry level person who just finished from uni do with cyber?
I think they would still can learn to use these tools. I think it makes them more efficient,
Right.
more employable, understanding to use these tools. The thing is, right now, not many organizations have
Adapted
to using them, but I think using them, someone entry level using them sort of gives them that edge as well, understanding how to use them. Right now I'm experimenting with agentic AI.
Nice.
Try to build for different agents to do different things, maybe combining 3 to do something. So
Yeah.
still in early stages.
Yes.
So I think for an entry level, I think using those tools to for the specific role that they're in, learning how to use them and apply them, I think would give them an advantage.
Interesting. So where would you said you didn't show the CISO role? I wanted to come back to that space. Does that mean there's gonna be a future where Bashir will take on a CISO role?
Maybe as it happens. I still have a few years, so I
Yeah.
the future will happen. But yeah, it's still open.
Yeah.
And obviously watching the landscape and changes. But to me, it's not the title. But it's not a do or die.
Exactly.
I have to get that title.
What does success looks like for you in this field at this stage of your career? Because, I mean, I feel like you've already climbed the mountain of all the things that you want to do, although there are still more that you're excited about, which I want to find out at some point. But what does success look like for you at this stage of your career?
I think success for me now is probably helping people to get into the field.
Nice. So that's your mission now?
I think I've been doing that since 2022.
Yeah, true.
In terms of personally,
Hmm.
I think being where I am in terms of what I do right now is success. But I think helping others to get in and thrive. I still talk to people who are middle management, like you said,
Yeah.
different challenges. But I think helping others to demystify the industry and how to progress.
I know you were among those trailblazers whom have really opened that market or the door in the Brisbane sphere around. Let's open the door to as many people as possible to come into cyber. You're providing mentorship and ideas like that. I haven't seen a lot of mentorship happening in that middle management space and climbing up. Do you think there's room where things like that should be done more and more? And if so, where do you see mentorship for you for the future?
I think the mentorship in the middle management, I think, is needed.
Yeah.
The other day, someone in that level reached out, sort of stuck. And, I sort of shared my story. I think majority of the middle management, I think people have given up, or maybe they don't have the why. I think it's important to start, why do I want to leave middle management?
Right.
Like, what's my purpose? Like, where do I want to go? So I think there's space there, but some of them have sort of just given up and said, okay, I'll just stay in the role for as long as I can and, see what happens. So majority of them are not sort of actively looking about what's the next thing.
Yeah.
There was an article by Kat
Okay.
last week about
The cyber cat.
cyber.
Yeah. Yes. Okay. Yes. She's very active with her.
Yeah, I like her article because
Is it the one that they did jointly with
Dr. Ganji.
Yeah, Ivano? Okay. Yeah, I really like that article as well.
So it was
Yes.
very well written and sort of shows the path a cyber, so where cyber person would take and the different paths that you can take.
I like that actually. I like how they cluster into, those who move into entrepreneurship, those who, yeah.
So I think I would encourage them to read that article. It's very sort of shows, but I think I'll ask them to sort of start with the why, depending on where you want to go as well.
Excellent. Any book recommendations for somebody at that middle management?
There's a lot of,
Maybe just one, the one that is you think has made make significant impact for you. Yeah.
I think for me it's 48 Laws of Power by Robert Greene.
Wow. Okay.
There's about probably 4 laws there that you can apply in the workplace as middle management to progress.
All right. We are slowly running out of time. So definitely I want to explore on our next session about Bashir, that mentorship side of things. Yeah, the kind of work you've been doing and so on when we sit down next time. But we have a closing tradition in the podcast where we do ask 2 questions. First one for you is what's one quote or principle you live by in life, in career, and in general?
I think one is I usually say less than I need to say. Because in the workplace,
Yeah.
and it's culture here in Australia that
Mm-hmm.
people share everything from their weekend, what they were doing, why they were doing it, where they went. I find that it's not to me. I don't do that. I will say that the minimum I need to say. The reason is in the workplace, it's a place where this information can be used against you. So you might say, oh, I'm having this problem with my wife and, X, Y, and Z. So someone who's potentially, you might be in a year's time competing for the same role, might use that against you. So there's very many examples that, so I think I live by that, say then less than
it's necessary. Yeah, necessary. All right. The second one, wow, that's powerful. The second one is, what's one question that you are currently seeking an answer for and you haven't yet find one?
I think right now I'm thinking, what am I gonna be like in 6 years?
Interesting.
And 6 years, it's driven by something personal. But I'm thinking, okay, what am I going to be in 6 years? So obviously, I'm looking at career-wise, in terms of life-wise, and thinking, okay, what can I do based on what I think 6 years time will be?
Yeah.
To make it better for myself. And obviously there's a lot of changes happening around.
Yeah.
And so still looking for the question, but obviously I'm leaning on my background in cyber.
Yeah.
And understanding what's changing. It's not just career, but also life-wise.
Yeah.
So still looking for that answer, but
that is so powerful. That's 6 years. Why is 6 years specific? Because that is very specific.
6 years, I think there's a reason behind, because my daughter would have reached a certain age.
Oh, yeah.
So I'm thinking, okay, what is it going to be like for me?
Exactly.
Wow,
that's profound.
So I'm thinking 6 years.
And 6 years from now, are you able to share how old will you be then?
I think I'll be 48, 6 years.
Wow.
49, I think, yes.
Ah, man. Now you got me thinking, man. That will be what? 2030 something, huh? 6 years from now?
32.
Wow. That's the time for the Olympics, right?
I think so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Gosh, we're going to have to sit down again, Bro Bashir. Thank you so much for these life lessons and for walking us through your career, your journey. But most importantly, actually, for me, the biggest lesson I take from this is it's never too late to keep trying. And that's number one. And secondly, also, you need to be self-reflective in order to make to take control of your career journey and career path. So thank you for that, and we're very grateful for gracing us with your time, and we can't wait to have a second sit down proper with you.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. All right, that's a wrap.